Have the police messed this up?
I think there's two things really for me. One is the biggest problem that people started to recognise was the messaging, and you have different hypotheses. You have to keep an open mind. When you go down one particular route, which they have done at the start, which is the idea that she's gone into the river, it was almost pushing us. So that was the only kind of hypothesis they were following. And one of the dangers of that, especially when you don't necessarily know everything at that point, or in this particular case, my presumption was when they were saying that they could say whether or not Nicola had ever left that area. They could say that the whole area was covered by CCTV or witnesses or whatever it might be, that they were 100% certain, 100% sure that she hadn't left that area. If you now find out that actually there are gaps in that kind of area, then putting out the messaging that you are sure it's an accident, what that does is that puts a something at people's minds where they think, well, I don't need to tell you about something suspicious because it's an accident. I don't need to mention the suspicious people or the vehicle or the event that I saw.
Can I just interject there? Because I think it's a really useful point to drill down on, because you're absolutely bob on. Initially, it was basically, right, look, she's gone into the river. We're pretty adamant about this. There is maybe a 10-minute window that we can't account for, and there appears to be one way out of this particular place of land that isn't covered by CCTV, but people have got Ring doorbells and dashcam footage, so we're basically sure she wasn't there. Well, now here we are with apparently around 3 CCTV black spots and potentially even a missing 2-hour window, actually. And people are thinking, well, how on earth does this happen? And it starts to look... We've gone to Lancashire Police, by the way, for what it's worth. They've not got back to us. But it starts to look a little bit like, rightly or wrongly, maybe they had a hypothesis, they realised they were maybe a bit wrong about that, and then they're trying to kind of cover it up a bit.
Yeah, and I think honesty is the best policy now, especially in policing. If you've got something like wrong, or you just maybe jump too quickly, come back and reset and say, right, let's get a grip of this again. But I think the important point to make as well, in the background, there is an SIO, a senior investigating officer, with a team of detectives who will be doing and working around the clock to try and find her. And I think there's a difference there. The messaging is wrong, but the work behind the scenes is probably going on. But the problem you have is, are you playing catch up now? That's the thing. You've got, as you say, 17 days. And again, the scene for me as well, and you're showing pictures now of the bench and everything else. In a missing persons inquiry, somebody would have gone to where she was. And at that point, recognising that kind of scenario that you've been presented with, that park should have been shut. And even if it's been walked through for a couple of days, shut it, because you don't know what else is about. You don't know what's been dropped in other areas. And that's the one thing I've probably not seen, is that kind of cordon, that mentality to say, right, let's make sure we have got everything out of this that we possibly need. And if there's nothing there, well, there's nothing there.
But that is strange, right? That is strange. I mean, I'm just a complete layman when it comes to police stuff. I, watch crime documentaries as much as the next person. That's where my knowledge on this kind of stuff stops. But you always see, normally, things fenced off, huge protective areas, etc. People forensically looking for evidence and combing things, blades of grass almost, for the slight little, most minute bit of evidence that you possibly have. And it doesn't really appear that we necessarily had that. There was the Stretcher River search and the independent diver... Paul Faulding, who was basically saying, look, actually, we don't think that she's in here. Just in the other side of this, very quickly, if something else has happened to her, i.e. she's been taken, say, how unlikely is it that someone would be able to actually hide that from the police in this day and age?
I mean, yeah, that's a difficult question, isn't it? I mean, 175,000 plus people go missing a year, and why haven't a lot of them been found? So all those families, I'm sure those people would love this kind of attention as well on there. But I think this has been created by the initial messaging, and I think it's made more difficult by the fact that you might be playing catch up now. And I think the messaging sometimes is too corporate, and that corporate messaging about reassurance, actually what you've done is create the opposite. You've now created a thing where, if you were 100% sure that she had gone in the river, then the family would know why. They would know why you're 100% sure, and therefore the family would not react by then going out and standing on the roadside and trying to get people's dash cams, because they would know the information that is being put through to them from the senior officer through the family liaison officer, which these people work very, very hard to keep families on board with them. And and they're not satisfied.